I first landed in Dubai. I swore I wouldn't become that guy. You know, the expat who trades his youth for gifts, dinners, and promises whispered in hotel suites. I told myself I'd work hard, pay my rent, stay independent. No sugar daddies. But Dubai has a way of laughing at your promises. The first was Fahd. Tall, sharp suit, eyes like a desert hawk. He cornered me after class one evening, sliding his business card into my hand like it was inevitable. "You deserve to be taken care of," he said, his voice warm honey. The second came weeks later. Samir, older, softer, but dripping in gold. He found me in a cafe near Jumeirah, asked if he could buy me coffee, then a meal, then my time. By the time Rami appeared, reckless, younger than the others, but rich with family money, I should have known I was already tumbling down the slope. And finally, Khalil, the one who didn't ask, the one who simply said, "You're mine," like it was a fact, not a request. I had said no to sugar daddies. Now I had 4. At first, it felt like harmless fun, like I was just collecting stories to laugh about later. But each man had a way of pulling me closer, promising things I didn't even know I wanted. Fahd was the first to test me. He invited me to dinner at Zuma, the kind of place where the bill for appetizers could pay my rent for 2 months. I told myself it was just dinner, nothing more. But when the plates were cleared and the waiter stepped away, Fahd leaned in across the table, his cufflinks catching the light. "You shouldn't worry about little things like money," he said. "Not when you could have someone like me." His gaze lingered, unflinching, daring me to imagine the possibilities. A week later, Samir slipped into my life with the patience of a man who already knew the ending. He wasn't flashy, at least not in the way Fahd was. Samir had an elegance about him, soft-spoken, deliberate, his laugh like a low rumble. He never offered me gifts outright. Instead, he wrapped his offers in care. "You work too hard. Let me help. You shouldn't be taking the metro in this heat. I'll send my driver." And then, one evening as we walked along the marina, he said, simply, "You'd be happier if you let yourself be spoiled." By the time Rami stumbled into my orbit, I was already bending my own rules. Rami was different, wild, younger, too confident for his own good. He had the kind of smile that made rules feel like a joke. We met at a rooftop party, and he bought me drink after drink until the city lights blurred. At one point, leaning too close, he whispered, "You don't need to choose them. Choose me. I'll give you more." And then there was Khalil, the most dangerous of them all. He didn't waste time with dinner invitations or careful words. The first time we met, in the quiet corner of a bookshop of all places, he studied me with dark, unreadable eyes. After a long silence, he said, "You're mine. You'll see." Something about the certainty in his voice made my knees weak. You'd think managing for men would feel glamorous. In truth, it was exhausting. My phone never stopped buzzing. Fahd wanted me a private dinner in DIFC. Samir asked if I'd join him for a weekend trip to Abu Dhabi. Rami sent reckless late-night voice notes that made me blush in the dark, and Khalil didn't ask. He commanded. And somehow, I let all of it happen. One Thursday evening, Dubai Mall turned into my battlefield. I'd agreed to meet Fahd at the Armani Cafe. He wanted to buy me shoes, and I told myself it was just an errand. But halfway through Cappuccino, I spotted Samir across the atrium, walking with the calm grace of a man who always had time. My heart jumped into my throat. Fahd noticed. "You know him?" Before I could answer, Samir's eyes locked on mine. A smile curved on his lips, knowing warm. He began to walk toward us. And that's when Rami appeared, loud as ever, a shopping bag in hand, shouted my name like we were old friends. "Habibi, you're here too." I nearly died right there between Armani and Prada. 3 of them, circling me like lions in a glass cage. But the real danger wasn't them. It was Khalil. Because even though he wasn't there, I could feel his presence like a shadow. My phone vibrated in my pocket. One message. Leave with me. Now, back in trance. I stare at it, heart racing, surrounded by men who thought they owned pieces of me. And I realized I wasn't choosing anymore. They were. The mall spun around me. Fod frowning. Samir smiling knowingly. Rami waving his bag like a child showing off candy. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. Last chance. Back entrance. Come. It was Khalil. I mumbled some excuse about needing the restroom and slipped away, my chest pounding. I could feel Fod's suspicion burning holes in my back, Rami's voice calling after me, Samir's quiet gaze following. But I kept moving. Past Zara, past a fountain, down the long corridor that smelled faintly of perfume and cleaning agents. And there he was. Khalil leaned against the wall near the emergency exit, his arms crossed. No shopping bags, no pretense. Just a man who looked at me like I was already his. You came, he said simply. I didn't have much of a choice, I whispered. You always have a choice, he replied, pushing off the wall, stepping closer. His scent, spice, oud, something darker wrapped around me. You just don't want one. His hand cupped the back of my neck, warm and firm, and suddenly the chaos of the mall melted away. It was just us, the hum of the AC, the pounding of my heart. You let them play, he said, his thumb brushing my jaw. Fod with his suits, Samir with his patience, Rami with his games. But when you want something real, his lips grazed mine, not quite a kiss. You come to me? I should have pulled back. I should have said no. But my body leaned forward, betraying me. Khalil's mouth caught mine, slow and claiming. A kiss that wasn't rushed, wasn't needy. It was ownership, and I let him take it. When he pulled away, his voice was low, dangerous. You're mine tonight. And I believed him. He didn't wait for me to answer. Khalil's hand slid from the back of my neck down to my wrist, his grip sure, but never cruel, guiding me through the back exit like he'd done this 100 times. The door opened to a shadowed corridor, the noise of the mall fading behind us. I should have been nervous. Maybe I was. But his presence drowned everything else out. The memory of Fod's disapproval, Samir's smile, Rami's chaos. Khalil's silence was heavier than their words. We reached the parking level. His G-Wagon gleamed under the harsh lights, black as midnight. He opened the door for me without speaking, waiting until I slid inside before joining me. Once the door shut, the world shrank. No chatter, no perfume-soaked air, no distractions. Just him and me, the leather seats, the faint hum of the AC. Khalil leaned over, one arm resting on the back of my seat, his eyes dark and unreadable. You like to play dangerous games, Habibi? He said softly. I didn't ask for this. I whispered. He smirked, his lips ghosting close to mine. No, but you didn't say no either. And then he kissed me again. This wasn't a teasing kiss in the mall corridor. This was hungry, consuming. His hand slid over my thigh, pressing down as if anchoring me in place. My pulse spiked. Every nerve screamed for more. Khalil? I gasped against his lips. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his thumb brushing the corner of my mouth. Say it. Say you want this. I hesitated, then gave in. I want this. The smile that curved on his lips was slow, dangerous, victorious. Good. And before I could take another breath, Khalil claimed me fully. Right there in the darkened parking lot, the city lights spilling to the tinted windows like secret witnesses. For the first time since it started, I wasn't juggling four men. I wasn't torn between gifts and promises. I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with him. The leather stuck to my back, slick with the heat of my own nerves, but Khalil's mouth was everywhere, claiming, testing, tasting. His kiss was fire and control all at once, pulling me deeper until I forgot how to breathe without him. His hand never stayed still, one moment gripping my thigh, the next tracing slow, possessive lines across my chest. Every touch was a question and an answer all at once. You think you could belong to four men? he whispered against my skin, his breath hot. I! My protest broke into a moan I couldn't swallow back. No! His hand slid higher, firmer, daring me to stop him. You belong to me. The words hit harder than his touch. Something inside me cracked open, and I realized I wanted exactly that. Not Fod's tailored promises. Not Samir's patient gifts. Not Rami's reckless games. I wanted Khalil, the danger, the certainty, the way he made me feel like the world outside didn't exist. Khalil, my voice trembled. Then prove it. That was the last thread, holding us back. He pulled me onto his lap with strength that left no room for doubt. My knees dug into the leather. My hands braced against his shoulders, and for a moment I hovered there, staring into his eyes. The city lights outside glinted in them like stars trapped in ink. A BB, he murmured, his lips grazing my jaw. Once I start, I don't stop. I don't want you to stop. And then there was no more hesitation. Just heat, urgency, and the kind of reckless intimacy that made time meaningless. The parking lot could have vanished. The mall could have burned down above us. All I knew was Khalil's body pressed against mine. His hands pulling me closer, his voice low and commanding in my ear. The line between fear and desire blurred, and I surrendered to him completely. The air inside Khalil's SUV was thick, perfumed with his cologne, with leather, with my own ragged breathing. His hand gripped my chin, forcing my gaze to stay locked on his. "Do you even know what you're doing to me?" he asked, his voice a low growl, like thunder that refused to break into rain. I think so. No, his thumb brushed across my lip, slow and deliberate. You don't, but you will. He kissed me again, harder this time, teeth grazing my lower lip before his tongue claimed me. My hands trembled against his shirt, clutching at fabric that strained against his chest. The world outside blurred into a muted hum of engines and footsteps, but in here, it was only us. Heat and hunger and the dangerous promise in his touch. He pulled back, just enough to make me ache. Say it. Say what? That you're mine. Every rational thought screamed at me to hold back, to remember that I had 3 other men wrapped around my little finger. But none of them made me feel like this, alive, undone, burning. I'm yours, I whispered, breathless. The satisfaction in his eyes was primal. He shifted, pressing me firmly against the seat, his hand trailing down, slow, deliberate, claiming. You don't belong to Fod's money, he murmured against my neck. You don't belong to Samir's patience. You don't belong to Rami's games. His hand tightened and my breath hitched. You belong to me. Something broke inside me then, not fear, not doubt, but surrender. And in that surrender, Khalil finally gave me what I'd been denying myself all along. The kind of passion that left no space for air, no room for reason. The kind that turned a promise into a reality, heat into fire, and touch into an unshakable claim. The parking lot wasn't just a setting anymore. It was the altar where I was remade,